welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you once again on this beautiful Thursday night. Actually, it's already Friday because we are 1 hour and 20 minutes late. That was not intentional for us to be this late, but some circumstances prevailed, and yeah, we ended up being late. I almost decided not to come on here, but then I remembered a promise is a date. So I said, why not come on here for maybe an hour or so, and we discuss what there is to talk about from the world of football. But I hope you've had a wonderful Thursday. I hope all of you guys are doing well. I hope for us down here in Kampala, it's been quite a very intense and hot day. Quite busy for me, but yeah, I'm really I'm good. I'm good. For those of you that are just joining us, you'll indulge me as we go through this tonight. Our Tonight we'll be discussing the latest stuff from the world of transfers, given that they are heating up as deadline day looms on the January transfer window that is set to close on the 1st of February, which will be a Sunday? Oh, yeah, I believe it will be a Sunday. So yeah, that's will be our gist of conversation. Crystal Palace have a deal in agreed for a Wolves striker. Hi LFC, always a pleasure to see you around, my brother. Hope you're doing well. Congratulations on Liverpool's win yesterday. That 6-0 victory against Karabakh. I'm sure it left you in good spirits wherever you are. But yeah. Today we'll be focusing on transfers. Sorry, can't say I'm watching Celtic. Oh, yes, the UEFA Europa League is also on. For those of you that are interested in that fixture, that's why I'm also equally disappointed in myself that we are this late, because I thought we would get a glimpse of what we would see from the UEFA Europa League, because things are also on the line over there. LFC says, I'm so happy with the win yesterday. Indeed, I think all Liverpool fans are, given the recent circumstances or the recent results in the Premier League, and I think Liverpool, deservedly so, with all their pedigree on the European scene, they've sort of they've been given a bit of a breather in that regard, because things have really gone their way in the last two encounters, beating up against Olympic Marseille by 3-0, Karabakh by 6-0. That's 9 goals scored with none conceded. I think that's a beautiful result in what has been a turbulent season for Liverpool, for Arne Slot. I think there's a glimmer of hope, watching those kinds of results, and you can only hope that that they can carry on with those as far as the UEFA Champions League is concerned, where we know that they've won the competition on 6 different occasions, the last being in 2019 when they beat up against Tottenham Hotspurs by 2-0. So they do have pedigree in that competition, and they are always a team to beat when it comes to that competition. Speaking of the UEFA Europa League, action is on already as we speak. Oh, really? Didn't see that coming. But yeah, action is on for a great deal of many teams in regards to the competition. We are on the final day of the UEFA Europa League, with Olympic Lyon leading the standings there. So here is an overview of the results so far, or how our proceedings are going over there. VfB Stuttgart and Young Boys, that game is 2-2 at the moment. Sturm Graz and Brann, that's still goalless. Real Betis are leading Feyenoord by 2-0. AC Roma are 1-0 behind against Panathinaikos, while Nottingham Forest are 3-0 up against French Varos. Goals from Otovos an own goal there in the 17th minute, and Igor Jesus with the breast there for Nottingham Forest, who I, by the way, trying to land the services of Jean-Philippe Mateta from Crystal Palace. Then Maccabi Tel Aviv are 2-0 behind against Bologna. Lyon are leading 2-1 against PAOK. Ludogorets is leading up against Nice by goal to nil, while Lille and Freiburg, those ones is still goalless. Go Ahead Eagles and Braga is still goalless, while it is 1-1 between Genk and Malamo. Crvena Zvezda and Celta Vigo are sharing the spoils so far in a goalless draw. The deadlock is yet to be broken in that one. FCSB are 1-0 behind against Fenerbahce. Fenerbahce there looking very active in the transfer window because they have made contact with Atalanta over the signing of Ademola Lookman. FC Porto are leading by 3-1 against Rangers, while Midtjylland are 1-0 up against Dinamo Zagreb. Celtic are leading by 3-2 against Utrecht, while Victoria Pilsen are 1-0 behind against FC Basel. Aston Villa at home against Salzburg are trailing by 2-1 in that fixture of the UEFA Europa League, for those of you that care to know on what's happening at the Villa Park there. So yeah, I've been trying to look through my feed for that, but I've been very, very unsuccessful so far in terms of landing on some of those games that I would have wanted to catch up on. My usual feed has sort of had so far disappointed, but I remain hopeful that I can really land on something and perhaps give you timely updates in the regard of that Aston Villa game. Anyways, like I said, the gist of our conversation tonight will be on the transfer window, where things are beginning to heat up as we draw closer to the deadline day of the January transfer window, which I believe shuts out on the 1st of February. That's over the weekend. So teams got to get their business done. I know for a fact that West Ham are pushing to get a deal done for Axel Disasi from Chelsea on loan, at least for the remainder of the season. So we'll be keeping tabs on that deal as well in that regard. So do not miss out on all that. So let's get into it on all matters transfers. We'll be going through them on a sort of a random basis, not in an orderly manner of team by team as we ordinarily do. So Alexander Zinchenko, we all know he's an Arsenal player. Went out on loan to Nottingham Forest on a season-long loan, but that loan spell was cut short, and he was sent back to Arsenal. Then Arsenal sent him out on loan to Ajax. Now, upon joining Ajax, Ajax came back to the negotiation table to say that they would like to sign the 28-year-old Ukraine midfielder on a permanent deal. And it looks like, according to Fabrizio Romano, the two clubs have a deal in place. He did say that Alexander Zinchenko will fly to Amsterdam on Friday to sign as a new Ajax player. Deal becomes permanent from Arsenal for 1.5 million euros, a fee plus add-ons linked to UEFA Champions League. That means if Ajax perhaps qualify for the UEFA Champions League, then Arsenal could get a little more in terms of add-ons. Now, I said this the other day. Oh, wow. What an attempt was that? That was Aston Villa looking to restore parity against this Freiburg side. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's the Salzburg side. That's as electric as you get an attempt, but the goalkeeper gets his hand to it before it goes over the bar. Then, like I said, I told you guys before that I did not think that Arsenal would even be able to recoup half of what they spent to acquire Alexander Zinchenko. Agabu Emmanuel says, hello Agabu, good to have you on the broadcast. Where are you joining us from, Agabu, and what team do you support? Remember, Arsenal spent in a fee in the region of about £35 million to sign Alexander Zinchenko in the summer of 2022 from Manchester City. We know his contribution to that Arsenal side. Him and Gabriel Jesus, they brought a certain level of belief within that Arsenal squad that they could actually challenge for a Premier League title. And they tried to do that in the 2022-2023 season. They ended up finishing second, having spent the longest period of time of 242 days at the summit of the Premier League table, but they eventually collapsed and never won that title, with draws against West Ham in a 2-2 draw, against Southampton 3-3, losing to Nottingham Forest by 0-0, losing to Brighton and Hove Albion by 3-0, and those kinds of results that really put them out of the title conversation as they conceded it to Manchester City. So he was integral in that campaign, as he did in the subsequent campaign as well. So it looked now for Alexander Zinchenko, what eventually boiled down to, it came to the Arsenal project growing beyond him. And last season we saw very, very limited playing time for him, and that's why Arsenal were intent on sending him out on loan this campaign. Isabella Martini says, hi, Isabella, good to have you on the broadcaster. Where are you joining us from? Do let me know where you're joining us from. My name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you from Kampala, Uganda. That's where I'm streaming live from, and it's midnight East African time. So that's how it went down. Of course, he went to Nottingham Forest on loan. That's where he comes from to then join Ajax. And I mean, for a fee of 1.5 million euros, really, that also speaks further to how to how poor Arsenal have been in terms of selling players, in terms of trading players, in terms of player sales. They've been really, really poor. And this is not a trend that has just started yesterday. It's been there for close on a decade now, where their player sales, they cannot really, their negotiating power when it comes to selling players is still significantly low, because I do not think they've sold a player for more than £35 million. Whether it's Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to Liverpool, whether it's Emile Smith-Rowe to Fulham, whether it's Florian Balogun to Monaco, and all those kinds of players. You've always felt that perhaps they've under negotiated, but also on the other side, you do believe that those clubs, the buying clubs, were smart at their buying. Why? Because oftentimes they catch Arsenal in a moment when they're almost desperate to sell. Because of the profit and sustainability rules, sometimes they have to sell. Then sometimes to move on players to, because they've recruited a lot of players, so they need to create room within their squad and things like that. You say it's daytime for me. Isabella Martin, where are you joining us from? Are you in Argentina? Are you in Brazil? Are you in Mexico? Are you in the USA? Because I suspect those could be some of the countries where it could be daytime, but thank you so much for joining us. So we'll leave it at that. So Alexander Zinchenko is set to join Ajax on a permanent transfer. Then, like I told you, there's a club-to-club talks between Fenerbahce and Atlanta over the deal for Ademola Lookman. We know for a fact that Ademola Lookman has wanted to leave Atlanta for quite some time. This is, we remember the transfer saga that happened during the course of the summer when Inter Milan tried to sign him from Atlanta, and Atlanta were demanding for up to 45 million euros. Really, Inter Milan could only bid as high as 41 million euros, so they eventually bow out of the deal. And, statements made the rounds, and he ended up staying at Atlanta. He thought that the club would reward him for his faith, for his loyalty to the club, and also what he's done for them. I remember he scored a hat-trick in the 2023 UEFA Europa League final as they beat up against Bayer Leverkusen by 3-0 to win the UEFA Europa League, which was Atlanta's first major title in many, many years, under the charges of then manager Gian Piero Gasperini, who has since left the club to join AC Roma. So that deal is equally being negotiated. And then Axel Disasi is close to joining West Ham United on loan from Chelsea, as talks have advanced to the final stages, according to online reports. Disasi was never close to joining Italian clubs, despite several reports, and West Ham are now accelerating the deal. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. we know for a fact that Chelsea have had a couple of players, that have not been involved with the main team and have been training by themselves or with the reserves, the likes of Raheem Sterling. Yesterday, Chelsea did announce that they had reached a mutual agreement with Raheem Sterling to part ways. Essentially, what that means is that the club agreed to pay, Raheem Sterling to leave the club. Basically, that's what it means. And by the way, Raheem Sterling is still only 31 years of age. And for the fact that he's been, lingering around. Of course, he was on huge wages, about 300,000 grand a week. So he decided, I'm not becoming any younger. It's not like I'm in my prime that clubs are clubbing for my signature. Whichever club may want to sign me is going to want me to take a very, very significant, pay cut. And I'd rather stay here, see out the remainder of my contract, and get that paycheck as I sort of walk towards retirement. We know for a fact that some players have gone on to retire at the age of 31, at the age of 32, at the age of 33, at the likes of Jack Wilshere, because of injury issues, while others have retired for different reasons. I seem to remember, and I stand to be corrected, I think it was Philip Lam who retired about 33 and things like that. So it wouldn't be strange if he woke up and said, no, I'm hanging on my boots. But it looks like he still wants to play. We'll have to wait and see where he goes next. I think he could go to, among those Premier League clubs, the likes of Fulham, the likes of Crystal Palace, the likes of Everton, the kinds of teams that are in and around the mid, section of the Premier League catalogue, he could fit in there. There's less pressure. His experience could come in handy. He won't be an instant hit because he's been out without playing for a very long time. We know that last season, I think he had only 7 Premier League starts during his loan spell to Arsenal. So he's not in the sharpest of form. So in other words, any club that signs him would have to take a bet on him for as long as they can reach an agreement on a sign-on fee and maybe aggregable wages, given that he had been settled in London. That's why the examples of the clubs that I've given are those clubs that are already in London. The likes of Brentford, maybe you could go there and things like that. We'll wait and see what that means for Raheem Sterling. Then also, moving on from that story of Axel Disasi and then of course Raheem Sterling, Real Sociedad have completed a deal to sign Wesley from Al Nassr. It's a here we go. Meanwhile, Aston Villa have scored to restore parity against Salzburg. So it's a 2-2 as we speak. Beautiful goal there squad. Matty Cash, brings in the cross, and I think it's Tyrone Mings that gets his head to it before it hits the back of the net. A brilliant cross there for Matty Cash, one of the best right backs that there is in the Premier League, really. There. So we'll leave that at that. Then Inter are in advanced talks to sign Brooke Norton. Brooke Norton Cafe from Genoa on a permanent deal. That's according to Fabrizio Romano there. So we are waiting to see where that goes. Okay, interesting stuff. Anyways, I will leave that at that. As reading on news regarding Karim Benzema, who asked to be left out of a matchday squad following a collapse in contract talks with his club Al Ittihad, and then Christian Pulisic, PSV still want to keep him on. He's one of those quite edgy players that you'll find that are still, making things tick in as far as high level football is concerned. The negotiations are at final stages between Ruben Neves and Al Hilal over a new long-term contract. Agreement advancing over a 3-year contract despite interest from Europe. Now, with just a couple of months left to his contract, there was a lot of speculation that Ruben Neves could make the switch back to Europe. Clubs like Manchester United were being linked with the potential move for the 28-year-old Portuguese international. I was saying at one point that he's the kind of player that could walk into that Arsenal team, that Chelsea team, the kind of experience that he has. Any team in the Premier League, I think he's capable of walking into, and anywhere across Europe. He can go to Italy, teams like Inter Milan, Juventus, especially when you look at that, Inter Milan midfield that is full of edgy players. And I don't know if any of these teams has not been encouraged to make a concrete move for Ruben Neves, but I think the Portuguese midfielder, who is can play for you as a deep line midfielder, as a box-to-box midfielder, is really, really still a capable player, one that any club would be glad to have his services, but we'll have to wait and see. Then, okay. We'll have to wait and see. Then also Crystal Palace are waiting for more steps for Jürgen Strand Larsson with Wolves, and meanwhile agree a loan move for Guessand from Aston Villa. Now, these deals are interlinked. Now, Crystal Palace earlier on today reached an agreement with Wolverhampton Wanderers on a deal worth £50 million, with £45 million being the guaranteed fees, plus £5 million in expected add-ons for 25-year-old striker, that is Jürgen Strand Larsson, for his transfer from Wolverhampton Wanderers to Crystal Palace as the number one target for a replacement for the 28-year-old French striker, Jean-Philippe Mateta, who did ask that he would want to leave the club this summer. So now, when that once that broke in, Jesus Christ, once that news broke in, it's interlinked because Wolves want a replacement for Jürgen Strand Larsson, and they have their sights on Aston Villa's Ivan Guessand, who they signed in the summer, but want to take him on loan. Then Jean-Philippe Mateta reports also came out earlier that Nottingham Forest are close to reaching a deal to sign him from Crystal Palace. Now, Nottingham Forest made a bid worth £35 million to try and sign the 28-year-old. However, Crystal Palace were still being insistent that they would want at least £40 million for the striker. Leeds United are among a host of other clubs that made inquiries about Jürgen Strand Larsson, but were unable to strike a deal. So they were not willing to pay beyond £40 million to try and get to sign the striker. So that's how the interlink between those deals. But also, Aston Villa did express interest in signing Jean-Philippe Mateta, as they were also pushing a deal to sign Tammy Abraham, who they've already wrapped up, while also Douglas Luiz will be joining them on loan until the end of the season with an option to buy. So that deal was struck for the 27-year-old midfielder or Brazilian midfielder. So, okay. All right. So Crystal Palace are in talks with Aston Villa to sign Ivan Guessand on loan, 24-year-old winger, also subject to strong interest from multiple European clubs, but Crystal Palace regarded as favourites at present. Persuaded Ivory Coast international before Aston Villa transfer, so we'll have to wait and see. Then the other deal that is happening or was agreed is £27 million for 22-year-old Norwegian midfielder or attacking midfielder or winger in Oscar Bob from Manchester City to Fulham. That deal was agreed, just the other day. So, that's a part of what has been really, really happening on that front. So things are happening in all sorts of directions. In as far as players making switches from here to there. And then I saw that what club? I'm trying to remember. Was it Napoli? There's a European club that wants to sign Leon Goretzka from Bayern Munich, I've forgotten the actual club. Yes, I think Atletico de Madrid. Yes, Atletico de Madrid are interested in signing Leon Goretzka from Bayern Munich. So keep your eyes on that deal as well. It could happen as soon or later down the pipeline. So those are some of the major transfer deals that are happening or that have been going on. Then Inter also agreed personal terms with Moussa Diaby as a potential signing. After deal was approved by Christian Chivo. For those of you that do not remember, Moussa Diaby, he spent one season at Aston Villa before making the move to Al Ittihad, where he has been since playing with the likes of, I think, Karim Benzema. He had joined Aston Villa, I think, from, was it Bayer Leverkusen in the German Bundesliga? So that's what is happening over there. So we'll have to wait and see on what comes of those deals. Quickly, let's look at some of the other transfer gossip and speculation in as far as transfers go, because things are beginning to heat up as we edge closer and closer to the close of the January transfer window. I know a host of big giants or big clubs in the Premier League have not been really involved in too much transfer business. The likes of Liverpool, the likes of Chelsea, besides some, loan recalls, Arsenal have not had a sniff. Man United have not been involved. Tottenham signed Conor Gallagher. Now, Atletico de Madrid want Leon Goretzka from Bayern Munich as a replacement for Conor Gallagher. So, yeah. And then, now, here is the latest stuff from the world of transfer gossip and speculation as compiled by BBC Sports. Raheem Sterling's representatives are in talks with 7 Champions League level clubs. Tottenham, Burnley also interested in England winger and Cole Palmer out of Manchester City's price range. Okay. The representative of England winger Raheem Sterling, 31, who left Chelsea by mutual consent earlier this week, are in talks with 7 Champions League level clubs who want to sign him. That's according to Sky Sports. Then Tottenham are seriously considering signing Sterling, who is now a free agent, and manager Thomas Frank is on board with the move, according to Team Talk, while Burnley, also, along with Italian Serie A side Juventus and Napoli, are also interested in Sterling, according to Mail. Manchester United will not be signing Chelsea midfielder Cole Palmer, 23, this summer, as bosses know the England international is out of the club's price range. That's according to the Mirror. Chelsea are planning on spending 150 million euros, that's 129 million pounds, on Real Madrid and England midfielder Jude Bellingham, 22, this summer. That's according to Fichajes in Spanish. Ajax are set to sign Ukraine. We've talked about the Alexander Zinchenko deal for about 1.3 million pounds. Quite peanuts, really. Then Aston Villa boss Unai Emery is on Real Madrid's shortlist to become the Spanish club's new manager this summer, according to Sky Germany. Now, if Real Madrid are considering Unai Emery, it's not an odd thing for Real Madrid to consider him. But when it comes to player management and the over tactical analysis, video analysis, and things like that, the way he's a bit obsessive in a good way with football, with structure, with the way he wants a team to apply itself. If one of the reasons as to why Aston Villa have scored and it's 3-2. It's 3-2. Aston Villa lead. An 87th minute goal is the difference between Aston Villa and Salzburg at Villa Park. So when I look at, if let's say one of the reasons as to why Real Madrid part ways with Xabi Alonso was an element of player power, an element of players thinking that there's so many rules on them, that is too strict, that training sessions are taking longer, and all these other sorts of things, then Unai Emery is a little bit of the same, or maybe not just a little bit of the same, is almost more of the same, So we'll have to wait and see, Otherwise, unless Alvaro Arbeloa does something miraculous, doesn't look like he will retain that job, especially in the wake of that 4-2 defeat against Benfica in the UEFA Champions League last night. Oh, beautiful goal. Chelsea remain in talks with Rennes to sign 28 year. Sorry, Chelsea remain in talks with Stade Rennes to sign 20-year-old French centre back Jeremy Jacquet before the January transfer window closes. That's according to Gimme Sport. But also reports did suggest that should they fail with the January move, then possibly they will make stronger attempts during the summer. Then Real Madrid want to sign Manchester United and Portugal fullback Diego Dalot because of their defensive weakness. That's according to some reports from Spain. And I mean, I do not qualify these rumors, but in a way, if they have any if they have any truthfulness to them, it speaks to the idea that Real Madrid could part ways with Alexander Trent Arnold sooner rather than later, because unfortunately for him, he struggled. He's not struggled for form, but he struggled with injuries ever since joining. Excuse me, ever since joining the Whites there. Then Manchester City have agreed a deal to send 17-year-old English defender Stefan Mfuni out on loan to Watford until the end of the season. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. So that's the latest stuff from the world of transfer gossip and speculation in as far as things go at the moment. So really, really interesting stuff that has been making the rounds over the last 24 and 48 hours or so when it comes to transfers. As we know, that the January transfer window is for teams to strengthen, teams that are looking closer to winning some silverware may look to bolster their squads, teams that are fighting for European places, teams that are fighting against relegation, and things like that. Then, reports coming out of France do suggest that Olympique Marseille could part ways with Roberto Di Zerbi following their premature UEFA Champions League exit. Remember, that goal scored by Trubin, the Benfica goalkeeper, to make it 4-2 in favor of Benfica against Real Madrid, is what decided the fate for Olympique Marseille, who thought they had qualified for the playoffs, but once that goal struck the back of the net, then their future in as far as this season is UEFA Champions League was good as done. We're talking about a team that has some really decent players and have made some January additions, recruiting the likes of Ethan Wanyeri from Arsenal on loan until the end of the season. Then also bringing in Uran Timber's twin brother, Quinton Timber, who is a midfielder. So things like that. But yeah, those are reports are also making the rounds. Okay. Oh. Anyways, we'll have to wait and see. Guys, it's already 7 minutes to 1 a.m. Here in Kampala, Uganda. Why don't you allow me to call this a night? Thank you so much, Isabella Martin. Thank you so much, Egabu Emmanuel. Thank you so much, LFC, and every single one of you that has managed to catch tonight's episode. Apologies once again for having been late. It wasn't intended. Some extenuating circumstances that also have come with a change of scenery. For those of you that have managed to make the observation, what did us caused us to come this late. So have a blessed night, and I'll see you guys next time, which is tomorrow morning, possibly at around 9:30 a.m. We'll be back with the conversation, with the build up to the weekend, because it's going to be a blockbuster weekend. Match day 24 in the Premier League and elsewhere around Europe. In the top 5 fixtures, we'll be getting you the fixtures from right there. Stay blessed. Bye bye for now.